Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Circling Seattle Sports. I almost said the podcast. It's been a while since I've said that. Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. I'm your host, as always, Charles Hammaker, here with you. You can see we're still in the home studio. So, again, dealing with stuff that's out of our control. Working on that as we can. But besides that, we continue to push, we continue to move on, as do our sports teams, of course, with some exciting news, with what comes with long seasons, all of that. So we'll head right into things here, as we're now getting closer and closer to the middle of the month of April, which is, again, crazy to think about. Time flies, time is an illusion, all that sort of thing. So we'll start off here with a small bit of Seahawks news. On the 4th of the month, the team re-signed wide receiver Cody Thompson. Age 27, came into the league as an undrafted free agent out of the University of Toledo. Toledo back in 2019, when he initially signed with Kansas City. He then spent time on Seattle's practice squad later that season, spent some time with the Bengals on their practice squad. After all of that, he ended up re-signing with the Seahawks late in the 2019 season. In addition to his time in the practice squad over the past few seasons, he's appeared in 5 games in 2021, playing primarily on special teams. He spent all of last year on injured reserve after suffering a shoulder injury in Seattle's first preseason game. So there's some depth there at the wide receiver spot for Seattle. I know that, it's likely going to be a depth move. I imagine that Seattle will take a wide receiver in this draft to sort of round them out, with a true third wide receiver. They haven't really had that in the time that they've had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I mean, Marquise Goodwin provided some solid logging, some solid stats last year. I was trying to say he logged some solid snaps, but the word just came in late there. But there hasn't really been a true third receiver for Seattle, and that's okay. That's okay. You can't, have this luxury of wideouts, luxury of talent, luxury of weapons for your quarterback. But I think that Seattle has a chance to add that this year in the draft. I thought they've been able to add positions of need in the draft in years prior, and they haven't done that. So who knows what they're going to be looking for in that regard. But I think that they can do that. It was funny. There was a report today that Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State was the only wide receiver that was viewed as a number one top draft pick sort of guy, first rounder. So maybe Seattle feels that way. Maybe they don't. They do have that pick around 20. So we'll see. But again, this is the depth. The Thompson signing should be depth unless he comes out and balls out like crazy. Then who knows? We move over here to our Mariners, who have been trying to ball like crazy, haven't been able to do that consistently. They finished out their opening homestand with a 3-game set against the Los Angeles Angels. So that first divisional opponent that they're going to be battling, April 3rd versus the Angels, was a 3-7 loss on Monday. Our player of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Gino, 2 hits, 2 RBIs on the day. April 4th versus the Angels, an 11-2 win. The bats come alive. It's a big game. This is the first real great game outside of opening day. 2 players of the game here. Our right fielder Teoscar Hernandez, Teo, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 4 RBI. He has a multi-homer game. I believe it's the 15th multi-homer game of his career. Another second player of the game, left fielder AJ Pollock. 2 hits, 2 runs, and 5 RBIs. His 10th multi-homer game of his career. So some solid stuff there. You good to see that. Teoscar and Pollock have both been sort of struggling. They had hit balls out to the warning track, hit the ball hard, hit the ball well, just haven't been able to see results of it yet. And this game felt really good for them to go out and get that and experience that. I know that Teoscar Hernandez in the post-game press conference said that it felt really good for him to have something like that because he had been trying to impress the fans in Seattle since the season began at home. So hoping that continues along. And I mean, even in the game since then, he's had some solid stuff. So hopefully from here on out, there's less pressure for that. So there's no need to press and feel like he needs to do more. April 5th versus the Angels to wrap up the series. After that big win, obviously, Seattle had a chance to take the series against the Angels. They would come close, but they ultimately could not pull off the comeback attempt, falling to Los Angeles 3-4. Our play of the game third baseman, Eugenio Suarez. Gino, again, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, continuing this hit streak that he's got going on. And unfortunately, the Mariners cannot beat Shohei Ohtani on the mound. Ohtani actually drives in a run as well. Chris Flexen has a solid start. I mean, there's a 2-run homer he allowed to Logan O'Hoppe or Hoppy in the second inning, I believe, but then it was smooth sailing from there. You can't really ask for too much more out of a guy like Chris Flexen after he'd been moved to the bullpen, and now he has to start again because Robbie Ray's injury. So solid game from him there. Just unfortunate that, I mean, only 3 runs of support there for him, and I believe 2 of those runs came in the 7th inning. So it's like you got the one in the I believe it was the one in the first, kind of looked like you might be able to get after Ohtani, and then he really locks in and you can't get after him. But it's a tough one. So we'll go over now that we've taken a break to watch that home series, and we can go over the photos because we don't have guys on the road. So picture of the game from the game on the 3rd, we've got Ohtani and Trout dapping each other up, obviously, but you can see Tom Murphy in his stance there, and his reaction kind of shows it all, how we were all feeling after that. On the 4th, pardon me, you can see here we've got the victory dance, which is very nice. Gabe Spire ends that game off, and the Mariners are able to do their post-game dance. And then after that game on the 5th, Ty France was the last batter in that game. He did go down swinging, and he knew instantly, he's walking off the field there. Just unfortunate and a tough one there. That one captured by Liz Walter, her first Mariners game that she would go in to photograph these ones, both by Brian Saldana. The Mariners would then head out on the road to rematch Cleveland, who they had played on the opening weekend, and we've gone over that. Go down the road to play Cleveland. They'd take that series and would fall just short of sweeping the Guardians and trying to spoil their opening series at home. April 7th at the Guardians, a 5-3 win. Our play of the game, shortstop J.P. Crawford. John Paul, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs in that game, including a big double. On the 8th, a 3-2 win. Our player of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Gino again continues to impress, 3 hits and 2 RBIs. And then April 9th at the Cleveland Guardians, a 6-7 loss in 11 innings. This one was very, very wild, very up and down. Sorry, there's some Mariners roster moves going on. Okay, we'll deal with this in a minute. I play the game catcher Cal Raleigh, 1 hit, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs. George Kirby pitches a really solid game. The Mariners relievers give up some late, and then the Mariners cannot end up putting Cleveland away throughout the course of that game, including multiple times with runners in scoring position. So that one was just really frustrating to see that end that way. You were pretty decently on your way towards completing that sweep of Cleveland. Again, Cleveland's a good ball team. They've got good pitching, and they've got some good hitters in their lineup. There's a reason that they went to the playoffs last year. But to have the multiple opportunities was unfortunate to see. You weren't able to put the final nail in the coffin. A lot of people were putting the loss on Penn Murphy. With the ghost runner at second, he tried to throw a pickoff attempt, and it went wide, and it advanced the runner to move to third. That's not the reason they lost this game. They had multiple opportunities to put this way, and they didn't. And even then, so if you want to blame a reliever, blame the guys earlier who gave up more runs. So, frustrating, really frustrating, obviously, to have that. But at the end of the day, 2-3 against a good Cleveland ball team, it's not the worst thing in the world. So yeah, ultimately tough, sure, but there's improvement that was seen. Again, good to take those games against the Guardians to begin the series. Just tough that you couldn't put the finishing touches on them to end it out there. So we look over here to player of the week, and I mean, I kept mentioning his name, and I talked about a hit streak, and it might be obvious that I'd go with Eugenio Suarez. Gino has a 7-game hitting streak now. as we're on Monday the 10th, 11 hits, 2 runs, 12 total bases, 6 RBIs, and 1 walk in that span. Gino's been playing great. As you can see, this photo by Liz Wolter here. And it's been nice to see a player, a hitter of that caliber, be able to do that while this team is still finding some offensive groove. You need that sort of thing from a veteran, and Gino has been able to provide that. I believe Ty France is also a similar sort of hit streak as well. So again, to have both of those guys like that, guys who bring a lot to you at the plate when they're going well, is nice to see. What's not nice to see is injury-related news, of course. On the 9th, there was a bunch of stuff that happened on the 9th, mainly highlighted, well, not highlighted, maybe low-lighted, by the team placing right-handed pitcher Andres Munoz on the 15-day injured list with a deltoid strain that's retroactive to the 8th of April. So that was unfortunate to see. I know that on the broadcast they were talking about how his arm might have been affected with the cold weather and with his injury not being able to build up as much as some of the other pitchers, which is tough. The other moves were the same day. Matt Festa, right-handed pitcher, was optioned to AAA Tacoma. Festa's been struggling to begin the year. A lot of criticism, sure, but the Mariners sent him down to Tacoma to try and figure some things out and get some things cleaned up. Infielder Evan White, I know it's tough to hear his name in this category, was recalled and then placed on the 60-day injured list with a left abductor strain. Yes, 60-day injured list. So Evan White continues to deal with things. Just unfortunate. I know that there were calls for him to begin the season on the opening day roster, but the Mariners felt he wasn't ready yet. And then he deals with this. Again, not directly related, but just tough to see that. As a response to the roster moves of Munoz and Festa, the team recalled right-handed pitcher Justin Topa from AAA Tacoma and selected right-handed pitcher J.B. Bukowskis from AAA Tacoma as well. Both in moves where those pitchers would be used in that final game against Cleveland that they would lose in 11 innings. So you hear me like mumbling during the player of the week. No, I think it was during the Cleveland segment. Roster moves, as we're busy. This is why I keep the phone by me. The team selected the contract of right-handed pitcher Jose Rodriguez from AAA Tacoma, option Bukowskis down to Tacoma, and Nick Solak has been designated for assignment. If you don't remember, the Mariners traded for Solak. Interesting. Solak traded for Solak with the Reds for cash after Solak had been designated for assignment. So that investment does not, again, it probably wasn't too much cash. That investment doesn't end up working out. For the Mariners, we don't have any team news outside of what we just dropped to you, and no league-related news. So the Mariners record sits at a 4-6 spot right now, so still under 500. They're fourth in the AL West. Looking ahead, they start the series tonight against the Cubs at historic Wrigley Field, the friendly confines. April 10th today at 4:40 p.m. Pacific. April 11th at 4:40 p.m. Pacific is the next game in that series. And then April 12th, they rounded out against the Cubs with a getaway game on with a first pitch time of 11:20 a.m. PST. Then they will come home for a new homestand when they host the Rockies for 3 games. April 14th versus the Rockies, a 7:10 start. April 15th versus the Rockies, a 6:40 start. April 16th versus the Rockies is a 1:10 start. So I know that the 14th is Cal Raleigh's clinch bobblehead night. That'll be cool to see. I know the Rockies could be mixing up teams here. I want to get that right. But the Cubbies, they begin a series with them with this new schedule. Everybody plays everybody over the course of the season. Oops, I clicked scores instead of standings. That's not what I want. Hello. I want to see how the Rockies are doing. We'll move down here. They're 4-6. Oh, we've got the same record. Okay, so hopefully that changes by then. But so we move over. I say we move over to the Storm, but not really. The WNBA draft is tonight. This will actually be airing and starting at the same time as the draft. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe by the time that we've hit the Storm segment, the Storm are going to be making their pick at number 9. My big thing is, with the way that your roster looks right now, and with there being no clear leader necessarily on this Storm team outside of Drew Lloyd. Where do you go? You know, I know that there's been different calls for different players. Does Seattle move up? Probably not. Does Seattle move out? Probably not as well. And in years past, the Storm haven't had a rookie on their roster. That will probably change this year, and I think at least changes due to the fact that Jade Melbourne will be on the roster this year. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting. The Storm still have a lot to figure out in terms of where they're playing players. I know that foolishly the Seattle Times thought that or maybe they don't, who knows with how this roster is built, that a few of these players could play point guard. Still have to figure out who's going to play point guard. I know Drew Lloyd can play the point guard spot, but how often do you want to have that happen? The Times thought the Kia Nurse was going to be, they were like, oh, they have their automatic starting point guard. And I was like, that's not quite accurate. But I don't know. Again, there's a lot to be decided. Noel Quinn and the staff will have to figure that out. And who knows what could happen between now and opening night. So we move over here to our Sounders, who continue to rumble. They returned home to host expansion side St. Louis City. This was a big battle. I mean, this is a big battle between two of the top teams in the Western Conference, and Seattle would come out on top 3-0. Our player of the match, midfielder Josh Atencio, with an 8.7 match rating, 1 goal on 3 shots with an 82% passing percentage and 1 chance created. This was a nice match to see. This was one against, St. Louis has started off the year really well. They've seen some really solid success. They were 5-1 heading into this match. They come into Seattle. I know that there's been some great respect between the clubs shared, and see, this was a tight battle until the 65th minute. When Atencio would score, his goal was an absolute screamer of a goal. And then the floodgates would open. Raul Diaz scored about 5 or 6 minutes later. And then the Sounders would add what was an own goal after that to make it 3-0 and have this explosion. There were close chances to begin the match. I believe one in the 15-minute where St. Louis came really close to sneaking one past Stephen Fry. Fry made sure that didn't happen, and it careened out just outside of the post. I mean, this was a nice battle to see. Seattle moves 1 point ahead of St. Louis in the standings to overtake the top spot in the Western Conference. They continue their great play at home. They continue to shut teams down at home, not having allowed, knock on wood, not having allowed a goal yet at home. So, I mean, with the way that the back line has been playing, with the offensive production you've been able to get, I was going to say from Jordan Morris and Leo Chu, but those players did not contribute in that match, at least in the scoring like that. You're getting depth out of it. We're going to get to the reason why Atencio was in this match, but your depth has shown through. You've been able to move some things around tactically. Hebert appeared in this match. He appeared as a substitute later in the match, and I know that Brian Schmetzer was happy with the way things looked, having Morris, Hebert, and Rui Diaz all on the pitch at the same time. So maybe we see that. I know that Schmetzer has been running with a hot hand, so to say, in recent weeks. And it's been successful having Morris and Shu in the lineup in the way that they've had that lineup look. So who knows? Maybe we'll continue to see that. But hey, this was an impressive win. I feel like it was a statement win to, obviously the first 2 matches were a solid start. Losing to Cincinnati was tough. Drawing with LAFC is not the worst thing in the world that could have happened. I know it was like, should have won it. Sure. I don't disagree with you. Going on the road and beating Kansas City like you did, coming home and doing this, it's been really impressive to watch so far this season, and just continuing to do that. Making Lumen a fortress has been great again. It's really awesome to see that the way the Sounders have been playing. And in this match, they didn't even have João Paulo. So that will obviously indicate to you the reason why the Josh Atencio got the start. João Paulo missed the match with a hamstring injury that the club tried to be cautious about. In one of the trainings leading up to the match, it was said that if João Paulo doesn't go, then Atencio would go, and Atencio would go, obviously. So, again, with injuries, I know a lot of people tend to overreact, but the club said that they're trying to be cautious with Paulo on this one, and that's the reason why he sat out this match. So, I would imagine nothing to worry about, but we'll obviously have to see that. Atencio, for his efforts, was named to the team of the match day, and it's being voted on if he's named for MLS Goal of the Week. But good to see him get the MLS team of the match day for a guy like that, a graduate of Centers Academy. Still kind of a lot to work with. And I talked about this at the beginning of the season. In my end of the season review, I wrote about this as well, that the way that the Sounders, Brian Schmetzer and the staff, get the younger players they've got involved, whether it's Leyva, Debelair, Reed Baker Whitting, Obed Vargas, obviously, it'll be really, really important to get those guys involved, considering the veteran players that you have, giving them rest, rotating these players out through the course of the long season, and getting Atencio in, getting this goal. You don't think that does a lot for his confidence? Obviously, you were going to have to do that, but it pays off. It pays off is what I'm saying. So, good to see that. Great for Atencio, great for the club. And now they move forward to a rivalry weekend, a big rivalry weekend, one of the biggest rivalry weekends in MLS. And Cascadia points are on the table. So the Sounders record sits at a 5-win, 1-loss, 1-draw record. They sit at second in the Western Conference, second in the league, first in the Western Conference. Next week, they play in Providence Park against the Portland Timbers. It's an April 15th match, 7:30 p.m. kickoff, which is annoying. The first Cascadia Cup match that the Sounders will play this year, and they play it against their bitter rivals in Portland. Seattle did not fare so well last year against the Timbers, so they're looking to change that fortune this year, obviously, and get back to bringing Cascadia Cup home. So, tough one last year with, multiple tough ones last year against Portland. So again, like I said, looking to change that around this year. We move over to our Kraken and talk about tough things, and things were not so tough for our Kraken over this past week, as they were able to clinch their first ever postseason berth in franchise history in just their second year. There were the comparisons to Vegas, and again, those comparisons to Vegas will be eternally stupid. But look at it this way. The Mariners, I believe it took 7 years for them to make the playoffs. The Seahawks, it took them a few years. So this turnaround has been incredible, and we're going to have sort of a end of the season wrap up. But with the postseason taking place, we're not going to do that for a little bit longer. Hopefully not for a good amount longer. So anyway, we'll get into the past slate of games. April 3rd was that Monday? I believe that was Monday. Yes. Was a 8-1 win. Pardon me. That was April 3rd. I got the 3 mixed up. Our player of the game forward, Jared McCann. Canner, 2 goals, 2 points, a 3+-, 7 shots in the game, 1 hit, 1 block, and 1 takeaway. So the first Kraken player in franchise history to sign an extension really shows out in that game that brings Seattle closer and closer to a playoff berth. They play a back-to-back, and they head up to Vancouver to play the Canucks for the final time this season, winning that one 5-2 after going down 2-0 in the opening period. Our player of the game forward, Jordan Eberle, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, 1+-, 2 shots, and 2 hits on the game. And after that win, it was 1 win that they needed to move up and secure a playoff spot. They were only 2 points outside of securing that first ever berth. They would take care of business on the 6th, winning that game 4-2. Our player of the game is the entire forward line of Jared McCann, Matty Beniers, and Jordan Eberle. Eberle, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, 3 shots, 1 hit, 3 takeaways. Yes, 3 takeaways. Beniers, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, 2+-, 6 shots, and 1 takeaway. And then McCann, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, a 2+-, 4 shots, and 1 takeaway. And before I get into anything else, before I get into the Chicago game or I go look at the photos, let's take a look at this video when the final horn sounded and the first ever playoff berth in Kraken history was secured. So that moment was really fun to witness. I'll remember that for a while. If you follow me on my personal Twitter, you'll have seen the champagne I poured on myself. I still had a couple bottles left from when the Mariners clinched their playoff berth. I don't know, it was special. A lot of the time last year writing about this team with the way they lost games, the manner that those games took place, it was like, all right, another loss, more defensive issues. Your offense couldn't generate anything. It was tough watching some of those players that are no longer on this team. But again, what was amazing and been talked about throughout this organization is the way that the fans showed up still in those games and the way that those fans loved this team still. And really embraced them no matter what. It was like, yes, I think they understood that. A lot of the smart ones at least understood that, hey, this is their first year in their existence. They've got a bunch of guys that are still continuing to get acclimated to each other. We're just happy to have a team. And Ron Francis and Dave Hackstall in this front office, Alexandra Mandrycky went out there and they obviously added Andre Burakovsky, who we're still hoping to see when those playoffs come around. Oliver Bjorkstrand, Justin Schultz comes in the defenseman role. Martin Jones is signed as a stopgap with Chris Drieger injured, and he has some solid months, in November, and eats up minutes. Matty Beniers really shows out and is the Calder Cup, presumed winner. Jared McCann continues to play well. Jordan Eberle has a great year. Vince Dunn has a career season and is my arguable pick for MVP of this team. At his line mate, Adam Larson continues to play well. The Big Cat has this amazing goal in the Chicago game that we're going to look at. Their contributions up and down the board. It's hard to single out one guy is not picking up the slack because everybody has picked up slack in this team. Even guys who have been scratches. John Hayden, who's injured, has come in and provided valuable minutes. Ellie Tolvanen was a waiver pickup from Nashville that Nashville didn't want anymore at that point. We look at the scratches. I mean, Jacob Megda's come in and been a consummate veteran. Cale Fleury's played some important minutes for this team. Jesper Froden's slotted into the lineup when needed. So it has been a true team effort with this unit because there isn't a true superstar, so to say. There wasn't even technically an all-star on this team because Matty Beniers wasn't able to participate in an all-star weekend. So it's been a ton of fun to witness this team go from effectively worst to not first, but a playoff berth. And they still have some, there's still 3 games to play in the regular season, 2 of them against divisional rivals in Vegas. And there's still seeding to figure out. So, it's been a ton of fun to witness this team, witness guys and personalities like Spronger on a day-to-day basis, see Matty Beniers and Yanni Gord have conversations after just about every practice, about what they could have done better, what they're looking to do. It's been awesome. It's been really awesome. So let's get to the photos of the Coyotes games here. So we'll go the first one on the 3rd, both by our photographer, Liv Lyons, our lead photographer, Liv Lyons, who, again, before I get to it, it's been a privilege to witness these games with Liv and shoot these games with Liv because, and obviously if Liv and myself, I've made this joke and Liv's made this joke as well, that, back in, I believe it was September, maybe October, Liv didn't think that they were going to shoot much hockey games, after we were riding off of the high, of the Mariners making the postseason and covering that season. now we are where we are with that. So this first one, poor Ryan Donato, everybody, it was Easter yesterday. We think of Ryan Donato as this God-loving man, which he is. I'm not saying he isn't. He's very big on his faith. I remember after, I believe it was a 2-goal game. No, I think it was he had come back into the lineup after being a scratch and scored. He talked about being a man. He's like, I'm a man of faith. And after every game that we talked to Ryan Donato, and people ask him, how did you do? Well, he talks about his faith, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think it's cute that he mentions that all the time. He has a cross on his stick that he'll draw on it. He still was able to show up for the Pride game, so nothing about religion hinders him from doing that, and he showed that. But the Coyotes games obviously have been a bit feisty, and to see Ryan Donato getting like his whole head squished, but the story also behind this photo is great as well. I believe it was Donato Donato or Sprong Sprong had scored. Wait, no, hold on. Goodness gracious. I'm sorry, I have to figure this out. It's been a long year, folks. Please forgive me. Seattle Kraken versus Arizona Coyotes. April. I apologize. I greatly apologize. Here we go. All we have to do is look at because it was like literally with 30 seconds. I want to say it was Donato. Yeah, it was Donato. Donato scored with like 27 seconds left, and Daniel Sprong got hit after the goal had gone in, cheap shot by the Coyotes, and Donato went to defend him. It's just loser hockey, really. It's just garbage hockey, that the Coyotes have been playing lately. They've got nothing to play for. They're in the hunt for Connor Bedard. They're actually not, because they're like 10 points out of the top few spots. So they can't even tank right. All this stuff. Again, they've got a game to play tonight. So God, please forbid that anything happens. But to see Ryan Donato stick up for his teammate like that after he had just scored, and get into a fight after, we've seen him fight before, but to see that again speaks to the camaraderie of this team, speaks to the bonds that are on this team. There were some great fight photos from this other game against Arizona, but considering that I made the entire McCann, Beniers, Eberle line our players of the game, I thought this photo by Liv, where you've got McCann leaving the celebration, Vince Dunn making a sassy as if face, Adam Larson, Beniers, you can see Jordan Eberle's number in there, but that sort of top unit in there celebrating McCann's goal, I thought that just fit it perfectly. And that's why I decided to go with that. So we'll wrap up here. April 8th versus Chicago, a 7-3 win. Seattle coming off of clinching their first playoff berth. Wondered how this game would go, considering they technically do have points to play for on the table, but you've got your playoff berth clinched, right? Seattle comes out and handles business. There were some defensive issues. The big cat Adam Larson did point that out. But 7-3 win, hard to argue. I believe it's the 7th time that the team has scored 7 or more goals, which is just absolutely ludicrous. And I don't believe anybody else is close to doing the same sort of thing. Our player of the game for Daniel Sprong, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, a 2+- and 3 shots. And so, I go over the photos. This photo captured by our photographer, Matthew Bermudez, gets the big cat goal. I just absolutely insane to have said that we've been able to witness 2 amazing breakaway goals by the big cat this season. I know that there are some big cat fans out there. Please contain yourselves. I know it's been great, but please contain yourselves. This is a pointed message. It was incredible to see him fly out of the box, and I said, oh no, he's gonna do it again. Because I remember being in the airport leaving for Arizona in spring training when Liv Lyons and myself were waiting for our flight, and Larson scored the overtime winner. Eddie Olczyk let out an amazing, it was like the Wilhelm scream, yes! And it was like, what in the world just happened? After that, the goal, the Kraken had given up a goal with, just seconds left. So anyway, we are prospering in Big Cat content this year. So our player of the week, at least mine, was for Jared McCann. 4 goals, 4 points, 4 assists, 8 points, 10 plus minus, 17 shots, 5 hits, and 2 blocks on the week. Canner, again, to have him, the guy who signed his extension first with this organization to be at 39 goals on the season so far. Maybe he breaks that tonight. Best done is 99 points, so maybe he breaks that through tonight. It's meant a lot, again, being who I am, I love Seattle so much. And I'm not saying that nobody else does. I'm saying that I'm putting into the context why I feel this way. To have someone like McCann come out, one of you, like your first stars, really come out and say, I signed this extension because I want to build something here. I believe what we're doing here. I love the fans here. I love Seattle. All this stuff. It was like a love letter. It's like you're tugging at my heartstrings, guy. To go out and sign that extension meant a lot. And it happened the same day that Russell Wilson got traded. So it was like it's a give and a take, right? There's emotions all over the place. So for him to do that meant a lot. And so to see his success, it means even more. I'll remember stuff like that through the years, right? So, a tip of the cap to Jared McCann. Really hoping he breaks through to 40 goals and has a 40-goal season. I believe he does, but, there's a reason they played the games. Anyway, we've got some other injury-related news and some team-related stuff. I talked about the postseason berth already, so, we can continue to talk about that, and we'll talk about that. I'm sure when we wrap the season up. But let's get it here to injury-related news and such. On the third forward, Andre Burakovsky was on the ice at morning skate in a red no-contact jersey, so he was with the full group, thankfully, but hasn't been back since. So there's a Berkey sighting if we need to do a Andre Burakovsky sighting sort of thing. On the sixth forward, Alex Wenberg took a puck to the side of the head, more the ear, and left that game and did not return for the third period. He had to get 20 stitches on his head, but he did not miss any time after that, thankfully. So sorry, I'm always waiting to see if news is happening because of the thing that happened earlier. Wenberg's wife and partner posted that he's had 150 stitches in his face. I believe it was in total 50 this year, 20 after that injury, which is insanity, that's happened. On the 8th, the team officially put forward John Hayden on IR. There's no betterment to that. It's more of a formality. Again, if you've been following along, I believe it was in Arizona when I announced this, we found out that he was effectively out for the course of the season with a lower body injury that he had suffered after the Oilers game, I believe it was. So again, that's just more of a formality. There's no cap circumvention sort of thing. There's no benefit to it that I know of. And I even checked. So, and then on the same day against Chicago, forward Jaden Schwartz missed the game and is viewed as day-to-day. So take that how you will. I imagine that with the playoff berth locked up and with the team already being sort of protective with Schwartz, with him always in his tracksuit for morning skates and practices, that they're just being precautionary. I imagine that's what it is. In team-related news, on the 4th against the Canucks, Oliver Bjorkstrand missed that game against Vancouver, and you can sense why he wasn't on the injured list, as him and primarily his wife Jill welcomed their son Otto into the world. Otto and Oliver, that is adorable. So yes, they welcomed their son into the world. I know in the morning skate ahead of the game against the Coyotes on the 6th, we asked him, and he is so Otto is happy and healthy, and so is Jill happy and healthy. So good to hear that. Awesome to hear that. And congratulations to Oliver, who it's his birthday today. So happy birthday to Oliver Bjorkstrand. I know we do the post on social media, but we typically don't mention it on the show. But happy birthday to you, Oliver. Many, many happy returns to you on this day. On the 6th, Shane Wright was sent down to AHL Coachella Valley. His season with the OHL Windsor Spitfires, who had actually, I believe, clinched who had secured the top spot in the OHL, got swept And so our friend RJ Escanos over at Emerald City Hockey did some deep digging. I saw it happening. He was frantically looking through the CBA. And he can join the Firebirds and is expected to play there and not just be a quote unquote extra skater. So that'll be interesting to see. Right, add to that playoff run. Exciting to see him contribute there and continue to play hockey. And again, I really believe he'll be with his team next season. I'm not worried about it. On the 8th, with their win over Chicago, Seattle ensured that they cannot finish below the top wildcard spot. It's out of reach for anybody else. So that's where I mentioned the seeding. They can go, I believe, as high as the 3rd overall spot in the division that's currently held by the Kings. The Kings sit at 100 points. The Kraken sit at 98 points. So you see why that's important. On the 9th, the team recalled goaltender Joey Decord on an emergency basis. He's not getting the start tonight in Mall Arena. He is an Arizona State alumni. We might see him play a little bit here, but I imagine with the back-to-back taking place, we see Decord tomorrow against the Golden Knights in Las Vegas. On the 10th, which is today, for Jordan Eberle was named as the NHL's second star of the week with that photo by Liv Lyons here, where he's helping one of his little ones on the ice during the Superstar Skills Showcase. Eberle collected 4 goals, 4 assists, and 8 points, highlighted by a pair of game-winning goals in 4 outings to propel the Kraken to a perfect week as they clinched their first playoff berth in franchise history. He scored once in an 8-1 triumph over the Arizona Coyotes on the 3rd. Eberle then recorded the decisive goal in each of Seattle's next 2 contests, tallying 1 goal and 1 assist for 2 points in the win against Vancouver, and 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points in a 4-2 victory over the Coyotes on the 6th. He finished the week with 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, reaching the 20-goal milestone for the 8th time in his 13-season NHL career and 2nd time in his many years with the Kraken, in a 7-3 triumph versus the Chicago Blackhawks. On the 8th, the 32-year-old Eberle has skated in 79 total contests this season, placing among Seattle's top performers in game-winning goals, tied for first with 4 assists, second with 43 points, third with 63, and goals tied for 4th with 20. So hats off to Ebbs there, getting that honor. It's really cool. Again, I talked about the depth when I mentioned that the team had clinched the playoffs. Eberle, again, is a guy that is respected around the league, of consummate veteran. But Seattle was able to take him, and make him part of their inaugural roster. And something that really stood out to me at the end of the year, is after another tough loss, Eberle in a post-game presser said, it's about the guys who want to be here. You see that effort, you notice that effort, and you see that, who wants to be here. And when he said that, part of the leadership group for this team, it meant a lot to know that, hey, these guys aren't some of these guys at least aren't packing it in. So that's great to see. And it's nice to see Ebbs recognized there. So with 3 games left in the regular season and a playoff berth in hand, the Kraken sit at a 45-win, 26-loss, 8 overtime loss record, 4th in the Pacific Division, sitting at 98 points, just 2 out of reach of the 3rd place spot, with that playoff spot secured. Ooh. So looking ahead, they play April 10th at the Arizona Coyotes. That is tonight, 7 p.m. Pacific time, the first game of a back-to-back and the final time they will play the Coyotes this year. As the games with the Desert Dogs certainly have been disastrous in terms of the fights that have taken place. Looking ahead then, that game in the back-to-back is April 11th versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the final away game that the Kraken will play, with a start time of 7 p.m. PST. And then, excuse me, they will have a day off before they close out the regular season with a contest against the Las Vegas Golden Knights on the 13th, not the 19th, a 7:30 p.m. start time. Yes, it's unfortunately a 7:30 start. I believe that game is also on ESPN. It is fan appreciation night, and it is the regular season finale. So that'll be a big one. And again, with what I mentioned, there is still seating on the line. So it's not like these guys are playing for nothing. We move over here to Oral Rain. They did OL Rain, not Oral Rain. Get it? Oral. I'm struggling. OL Rain. Or OL Rain here. Didn't play a game over the course of the past week. At least the team as a whole did not. They were at the game against Chicago to honor Rosalie Fish, University of Washington student athlete, for her work which was really cool to see not only the rain, but also Rosalie in her message. There was no match for them over the course of the past week. There was a international window, some friendly matches, and some of the internationals took part in that. We'll jump straight to the team news there. 6 Reign players are set to join the national teams for friendly matches over the April international break. That was announced on the 5th. Alana Cook, Sophia Huerta, Emily Sonnet, and Rose Lavelle joined the U.S. women's national team when they played Ireland. I got to represent the Irish blood in me. Jess Fishlock joined Wales over the course of the break, and then for Jordan Heidema competed with Team Canada. So about the usual suspects, I know that Megan Rapinoe is still dealing with injury-related stuff, so that's probably why she wasn't there with them. But good to see that take place as well. They are gearing up for their first home game of the course of the season. They will play San Diego in a big battle. Hoping to get just about everybody back healthy. Haven't heard anything out of training. Check here. They had an open training today, but with the recording, I didn't think I'd have time, but technically I would have. It's no matter. Let's see here. If there's anything to note. No, it doesn't appear like it. Nothing that I can see. So, it's big. I know that we'll be there. I'm excited to be back for my 3rd season covering the Reign. My first ever press credential was with the Reign. That club means a lot to me. You know, the support from the club itself, the front office, the team itself, you know, the supporters, the fans of the team. I will always love the Reign and covering the Reign. So that means a lot. I always look up here. If you aren't aware, you know, when we've done the show here at home in the past, I've got all the first credentials from every team that I've got, like first Reign credential, first Sounders credential, first Kraken credential, UW Soccer in the playoffs. That's my first of their credentials. First Seawolves credential, first Mariners credential, first Thunderbirds credential. And then above me here, I've got my ALDS credential, my season credential with the Sounders last year, my NWSL championship credential. That was fun. And a piece of the confetti on the Seattle Sports Star of the Year credential. So anything that's not being used right now, right? I mean, this is a club that it's been tough to see them hit the semifinal both of the past years and not be able to make it past that mark. But you know, the OGs are back at least for another season. And I believe Luwani is here in the U.S. now, thankfully, dealing with all the visa stuff. Angelina's working back from a season-ending injury still, you know, still looking to hammer down the finishing sort of things, but they got their victory against Gotham. Gotham's a good club, a talented club. I'm really excited for the rest of this Reign season. You know, they play this one against San Diego, which shouldn't be anything easy. Obviously, Alex Morgan was a tough talent in the league to play, just scoring like mad as the season went on last year. So it'll be a good contest, and you know, it'd be great to see Lumen Field, you know, with the Reign back in it again on Saturday. Yes, Saturday. Yes. Oop. Open a bunch of things. Go away. So we head to that. Our Reign sit at a 1-win, 1-loss record on the season, good for 5th in the league table with 2 points. Looking ahead, that match April 15th versus the San Diego Wave is a 7 p.m. start, and it is the Reign home opener. So get out to that if you aren't already. Tickets are still available. Go out and fill Lumen as they begin. Well, not technically begin, but they play their first home match at Lumen Field this year. We move over to our Seawolves here, who saw their undefeated stretch finally come to a close, unfortunately, when they hosted their bitter rival San Diego on the 8th at Starfire Stadium, a loss 23-20. Our player of the match, fly half Jordan Chait, 13 points scored, 1 try scored, 2 penalty kicks scored there as he returned to the lineup as the starting fly half. This one's it was a tough one. I mean, it was very much like a what's the word? Tug of war sort of game. You know, San Diego came out, scored early. Seattle was able to score San Diego got a kick early. Seattle answered with a kick of their own. San Diego had a try that was overturned, and Seattle was able to hold them out, and then they would eventually get one to come into the half leading 11-3. Charles Elton would score a try for Seattle to bring us back within, I believe it was within one, and then Chait got a kick to put Seattle ahead, and then it was Chait actually scored a try and then converted the kick to put Seattle ahead. I was like, oh, this big swing had happened. They had been down 11-3, and then they had gone on and scored, I believe it was like 11 unanswered. And then San Diego came by and rumbled by, got to 23. Seattle had the ball with time ticking down and turned it over, and that was that. So it was a tough one. I mean, you had to figure this one was coming. They started out the season 6-0. It can't last forever, right? And it didn't. You play a San Diego team that was right behind you in the standings, so it makes sense. I mean, they're your rival as well. It's just tough considering the mistakes that were made for this loss to happen. Seattle made some mistakes. Their formula had been working, but some mistakes, turn over the ball, doesn't end well for you. So tough one there, but I'm happy with the way that this season's gone so far this year, to see the way that these veterans have been able to contribute. You've got these guys like Elton and Chait who were acquired in the off season and are spending their first years as Seawolves here, and I believe their first year in MLR as well, and contributing. And you've still got guys that have championship pedigree that, I wrote about this as well. I don't imagine they're going to allow this loss to sort of sit with them and just let it be something that lingers. You know what I mean? So focus up. You've got Utah next week. Can't let it just be, something that derails you in the course of your season. And I don't believe that's going to happen. So tough loss. Yes, probably could have won it, but you move on. You're going to lose things. You played a good team. That's how it goes. So looking ahead for our Seawolves, they sit at a 6-1 record. Again, 6-1 is nothing to scoff at. 27 standings points, second in the league and second in the Western Conference. They move on April 5th at the Utah Warriors, a 6:30 p.m. start time. Head back out on the road, and they've got a tough contest against Utah. Again, don't want to let any loss really, let spiral like this, but especially a close one. You don't want to let that one become something that knocks you out. This game against Utah will also not be any, sort of walk in the park, because Utah sits at a 5-2 record. They are fourth in the Western Conference, but they sit at a 5-2 record. That would have been good enough points wise for second in the East, and good at the same record as the New England Free Jacks. So this is going to be no pushover. So anyway, we move over to our Sea Dragons, another team that had been really, really hot coming into their game. Unfortunately, would drop that one to DC April 9th versus the DC Defenders, a 33-34 loss. Our player of the game, Juwan Green, 7 receptions, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tough one. I was not able to witness this one. Seattle was down a good amount at the half, though. They would come back. Obviously, you see that Seattle only had, I believe it was 3 points at halftime. They come out and add 30, but obviously some I've been talking about for the majority of the season, actually, has been Seattle's defense and the way that they've been able to keep them in games. They had 6 points at the half. Okay, so going to score 27 is no easy feat. They were down 16-6 at the half. Giving up a 12-point quarter to DC in the final is a tough one. There was a lot of excitement for Seattle having acquired Phillip Lindsay before this game, with injuries to their running backs. Morgan Ellison's been banged up. He didn't play in this game. Brennan Knox didn't play. Lindsay, 8 carries for 23 yards and a touchdown. So he did score in his debut, but tough. I mean, Ben DiNucci had 301 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. So he did have the pick. I know that Quinterio Cole had a good game, 3 assisting tackles, 5 solo, 8 total, 2 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. Just the defense wasn't up to par on this one. I mean, 34 points, that's tough to give up in any right there. So tough to see Seattle lose that one. But the problem is now, I mean, they sit at a 5-3 record, which isn't horrible. Excuse me. But with that second loss to DC on the year, playoffs become, you start to look at tiebreakers here, and it becomes really complicated. Essentially, if Seattle loses to St. Louis this week, it's over. It is over. So the playoffs aren't completely out of reach, but you need to beat St. Louis this week, and you do so. You play them on the road, which isn't going to be ideal because St. Louis has a pretty solid support at home. So the Sea Dragons sit at a 5-3 record, which is good for third in the XFL North, behind St. Louis and behind DC. Their next matchup against St. Louis. Did I say? Yes. Sorry, I'm saying St. Louis a lot. Their next matchup is April 16th, Sunday at St. Louis, battling the Battlehawks at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So a noon game there for the Sea Dragons, and they need to win that one, or their playoff hopes are as good as dead. I know I didn't have a start of the week last week. See, tired. But with the Kraken making the playoffs, it only makes sense. We've got our clinch graphic here. That one took a lot of effort, so I was glad to see that people enjoyed that. It just makes the most sense to me. I mean, with the turnaround that they've had, a team that really struggled really, really badly defensively last year. They've had their defensive issues this year, but just nothing really went right for that team. You look at many of the facets, their specialty teams, not great. Their offense, not great. Their defense, not great. Their goaltending, struggle. So not a lot went well for them. So to see the Kraken go out there and make the playoffs and have the depth that they've had, and to really be this team that's seen so much success and clinched a playoff berth, had that 7-game road trip that they swept, scored all these goals in November, beat Boston in Boston and shut them out, and should have beat Boston here. Challenged some great teams. They in that 7-game win streak. Was it the 7-game win streak? The game after beating Boston, I believe it was, they went in and they beat the Maple Leafs in Toronto. So this team has been a ton of fun to cover and to follow along with. And with that, some of the people you meet covering this team have been incredible as well. And two in particular, because one's birthday is today and one's is tomorrow. I know he comments on a lot of our stuff, and I really appreciate him for that. And he deals with a lot of my weird comments. Max, happy birthday. Say happy birthday to my friend Max. I hope you're enjoying it. I give you a lot of crap. A lot of my friends a lot of crap. But I appreciate you being a sport about it. And just being really supportive as a friend of Charles and of what we do here at Circling Seattle Sports. So thank you, Max, and happy birthday to you. And to my friend Ray, it is their birthday tomorrow. We're going to watch the Kraken game when they play Vegas. Ray, I want to say happy birthday to you. I would say the same thing about what I said about Max. Your kindness and friendship to me, and as well as supporting me and what we do here at Circling Seattle Sports, means the world to me. Those are two excellent human beings. Happy birthday to them. Obviously, Max today, Ray tomorrow. But with what was I going to say? It's to the people that you meet in sports is amazing. They don't have to be totally into it, analytics, this and that, and have every piece of merchandise, whatever. Just the people, within these sports. I always like to say that sports are the great unifier, and that is true, and I am so grateful for that. So happy birthday to you both. Until I see you next week, we're going to be in the 17th of April. I will save you the comments about how time is flying. I hope you are well. I hope you take care of yourselves. It's been raining lately. It's raining today. I'm going to order, I think, some spicy teriyaki chicken, maybe some wingdom. It's going to be spicy either way. Until I see you next week, thank you all for all that you do to support us and to support the show and to support everything that we do. Until we see you next week, take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make today a great day. I love you all.